a short demonstration of the OzLINK Mobile Pro for NetSuite mobile barcode scanning solution. And as we go through, please feel free to type any questions that you might have right into the GoToWebinar tool, and we'll get to those questions here as we go through and given time permits. And I think at the end of the call today, we'll try to leave some time for Q&A and try to address any questions that you have. So just quickly on the agenda, we'll go through who is Oz Development. We'll spend a little bit of time providing some overview for the OzLINK Mobile Pro functionality. We'll step through a demonstration of the solution, and then we'll answer any questions that you have. So just quickly, who is Oz Development? So Oz Development has been a NetSuite partner since 2005. There was an initial group of partners within the NetSuite community, and Oz was one of those. And over the years, we've got just over 640 some odd NetSuite customers running OzLINK in their warehouse. Oz is based in Massachusetts, and our entire team sits here. We've got over 20 years of general warehouse automation and integration experience. And we've got a strong team of engineers, support people, sitting here in our offices outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And you can see here, we've got a whole host of customers, running OzLINK in their NetSuite warehouses. And I think the key thing to think about as you look at the customer base is that, some of the smaller customers that NetSuite has are running OzLINK in their warehouse, all the way up to some of the largest customers that NetSuite are working with on the wholesale distribution and manufacturing side. And I think the key thing that sets Oz Development apart is really our focus on customer satisfaction and support. The first OzLINK customer in the NetSuite community back in 2005 is still an active OzLINK customer today. And we do work very hard to make sure that our customers are happy and satisfied. And we also have a great solution to help scale up as businesses grow, both in scale and scope and complexity. So I think that speaks to sort of our large customer base and our long-standing relationships with each of our customers. So we're going to focus today's discussion on the OzLINK Mobile Pro functionality. OzLINK Mobile Pro is an Android or iOS-based solution and basically provides mobile barcode scanning and warehouse automation built on top of the NetSuite functionality. Everything that OzLINK does within the NetSuite space is built to be an extension to the NetSuite system. We're using native NetSuite transactions, sales orders, purchase orders, receipt records, etc. And everything that we do on the mobile device is represented accurately in real time in the NetSuite system. So it provides great automation within the warehouse floor, and we're able to speed up those processes and gain efficiencies. But it also gives us great visibility from a back office perspective in terms of what's happening in the warehouse as orders are received or fulfilled or items move throughout the warehouse, maybe across locations or across bin locations. And we'll talk a little bit about both how we can improve the processes on the warehouse floor as well as improve visibility in the back office in terms of what's happening on the warehouse during the day. What I'm showing here is really a list of functionality as it relates to the OzLINK Mobile Pro current version. So OzLINK Mobile Pro is a browser-hosted solution, and OzLINK will provide periodic updates and new releases of OzLINK Mobile Pro. So everybody's running the same version of OzLINK Mobile Pro, and you can see the current version of OzLINK Mobile Pro has a fairly long and extensive list of functionality tied to it. Just a few kind of highlights. On the picking side, we have a lot of customers that have fairly unique picking processes. And so OzLINK has given the option to our customers to pick orders, whether it's a single order at a time, or maybe you want to select 5 or 10 orders to pick at the same time. OzLINK Mobile Pro makes it very easy to batch orders together and pick them all in one efficient walking path through the warehouse. The other thing is we have a lot of customers that like to pick fairly high volume of orders, and they'd like to pick them all at the same time, but they want to make sure that they're separating those orders during the picking process. So we've enabled a tote-based picking model where we can direct the user to pick multiple orders through the warehouse and separate inventory across totes while we're picking. Finally, and we'll step through a demonstration of some of this, but just to highlight 1 or 2 other options here. So around label printing, OzLINK Mobile Pro does a great job. It makes it very easy for your users to print item labels, both at receiving and at lookup from the warehouse floor. We can print item fulfillment ID labels. So after we've picked an item for an order, we can print a little label that will identify what the sales order and fulfillment ID is for that item or group of items. Those totes that we talked about, we can print tote labels for those. And then OzLINK is also integrated with the core NetSuite packing list and shipping label integration that NetSuite natively offers. And so using the packing list and shipping integration, you could really pick an order, print a packing slip, print a shipping label, mark the fulfillment in NetSuite as shipped, all without logging into the NetSuite user interface directly through a browser at all, and frankly also the use of any paper along that process aside from the shipping documents that you're generating at the end. And we'll talk a little bit about these, and you can see there's an extensive list. This is a list that's ever expanding with new releases, and so stay tuned to future releases for OzLINK Mobile Pro and additional features that are included in there. So if you bear with me here, we're going to step through a quick demonstration of some of the functionality as it relates to OzLINK Mobile Pro. This is a NetSuite dashboard screen where I'm showing custom portlets that Oz Development has developed and that we will deploy as part of the OzLINK Mobile Pro project. And really what we're showing here is user productivity, user activities within the warehouse floor. And the key thing is we want to be able to see what's happening in the warehouse, whether it's orders being received, orders being picked, items being moved. And we want to see it in a way that's useful for us. We want to have a high-level perspective. How can we improve our processes or make any changes? So for example, in the middle on the top, we've got a total transaction time by user. So this is showing me of all the transactions that we're performing in the warehouse floor, how long does it take each of my users to perform that transaction? How long does it take each of my users to pick a sales order, or to receive a purchase order, or to put away inventory? And this could show us a couple of things. It could show us, well, hey, some of these guys are doing this a lot faster than others, so maybe we can learn from that person's experience. And then, on the top left, for example, we can see how many item fulfillments are being generated by user. Now, how many items are being processed by user, transactions by user. So this will kind of give us a good perspective of, what processes do we have that are working really well? Where can we focus some attention to gain some more efficiencies and review our processes? And then in addition to that, of the users that we have in the warehouse, how can we improve? Who can we learn from, and who's doing things really well? And as I mentioned before, within the OzLINK Mobile Pro solution, everything that we're doing here is a native NetSuite transaction. So everything you see here is based off of native NetSuite records, receipt records, and not necessarily custom records. So these will all post, in real time and in a very smooth fashion. There are no scripts that get generated here to post this data within the NetSuite space. Now, in order to show the user's perspective of working with the OzLINK solution, I'm going to use this Motorola TC55 device. So I'm working with OzLINK Mobile Pro here. OzLINK will make it very easy for you to work across multiple locations, including potentially sub-locations or quarantine locations within your warehouse. And we can see inventory across those various locations. And then you'll see that there's a sort of a list of functionality here that the user can work with to get through each of these features. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and receive an order. And OzLINK Mobile Pro will make it easy for me to scan a specific order. If you generate a purchase order document in NetSuite, you can have a barcode associated with that. We also have the ability to pull up a list of open purchase orders that we want to receive. So we can see from my list here, these are largely purchase orders. OzLINK Mobile Pro will be configured to receive in the same way purchase orders, inbound transfer orders, as well as return authorizations and RMAs. So we'll have the ability to receive against all of those transactions in the same function as I'm going to show you here. So I'll go ahead and select one of those purchase orders, and OzLINK will give me a list of items that I want to receive against that purchase order. Now we'll go through and we'll receive these items, but what I'll do fairly quickly here is just pull this purchase order up in NetSuite so we can take a look. So here's my purchase order 1681. And you can see we've got our 3 items that we're expecting to receive here, various quantities. None of these items have been received yet. There's no item receipt record that's been created. So we will come back to this purchase order here after we've scanned these items on the mobile device. But before we go to the mobile device, I just want to show you one thing on the item record here. So we mentioned earlier item label printing at the receiving stage. So one thing you'll notice is that within the item record in NetSuite, OzLINK is going to give you an OzLINK Mobile Pro tab, and within that tab we'll be able to set a couple of things. But first of all, we'll see that we can configure at the item level whether or not we want to automatically print item labels at receiving. And what that means is as we receive inventory, we will generate a item label based on this sample that we're showing here for every item that we receive. So we can generate a default item label. We can generate item labels for serialized inventory, lot-controlled inventory. This will make it very easy to sort of standardize the barcodes within the warehouse. It's easy to use the scanners to move inventory around. You can also see that we've got alternate barcodes here, so you can add up to 5 alternate barcodes for each item. And a lot of our customers will use maybe a vendor barcode name or multiple vendor barcodes names, and OzLINK can draw those barcodes back to the same items within NetSuite. Again, that can all be configured at the item level within the inventory record in NetSuite. All right, so within the mobile device, you'll see that we've got our 3 items that we'd like to receive. And we can go ahead and scan the item's barcode. And I've got fast scan turned on. So if I scan that barcode, every barcode that I scan, Oz will register a quantity of 1 for that item. If I scan an item that's not on my purchase order, Oz is going to give me an error message and let me know that I've scanned the wrong item. Now, if I select the item from my touch screen here, Oz is going to give me the ability to either go ahead and receive all of that item based on the quantities that I have on my purchase order, or I can type in a quantity based on what I've seen. Maybe I visually see a case or a master case 75. And we'll always be able to use images from the NetSuite system so we can take a look at those images and inspect what we're working with. But as we add items to our paper tape here, you'll see the 5 or so items that we scanned individually, along with the 75 that we entered the quantity for. Oz will incrementally print item labels as we receive each of these items. So once we receive all of an item, Oz will take us back to our list. We'll see the banner has changed color, so we'll know which items have been totally received in its entirety, which ones have quantities that are remaining to be received. And we can go ahead and receive our other items here. So we can go ahead and receive 75 of this item. Item 5003 will receive all of those, and you'll see we have 3 remaining here for 5002. We can go ahead and receive the rest of those. And once we've received all of our items here, we can go ahead and save it, and Oz is going to create that item receipt record for us in NetSuite. So in real time, if we come back to the NetSuite browser interface here and we refresh the browser, we'll get an updated quantity that has been received, and we'll get our item receipt record created. So let's go ahead and refresh the browser here, and we will come back and take a quick look. So you can see as we refresh the browser, we've got various quantities that we've received. And here's our item receipt record within the purchase order. Again, a native NetSuite item receipt record looks the same as if you had gone directly into the purchase order and received the purchase order directly.
Hey, Pete, I've got a couple of questions from folks on the line here. One actually stems back to something you mentioned a little bit earlier in regard to login and locations. Can you just talk a little bit about how that is managed? I think ultimately the question is, you showed we were logging into different locations. What controls what locations you can see? Is that an OzLINK setting, a NetSuite setting?
Yeah.
I think is ultimately the question.
Yeah, in NetSuite, OzLINK is designed to work with multi-location support within NetSuite. And so really Oz is going to be tied to the locations that you have set up and configured within the NetSuite system and allow you to see orders and inventory that you have within those various locations. So Oz is going to be tied directly to your NetSuite configuration in that scenario.
So it's fair to say, like, if I were a temporary employee and maybe I didn't have access to a QA location, when I log into the gun, I wouldn't have any access to QA. I'd only have access to whatever location my user has.
That's exactly right. So OzLINK will be tied to a direct user license, and so we'll be able to see the location support within those users.
Great. A couple other questions. One is somewhat related. Maybe you can just talk about scalability. Somebody said, is there any limit to the number of locations, number of users that can use these mobile devices?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the short answer is really no. There's no limit. We have customers that have one warehouse location, one person within that warehouse location using one mobile device, and it works great for them. And I think there's a lot of value there for those types of companies. And we also have customers that have 1 or 2 or 3 centralized distribution centers where they use these devices, and then 50 or 55 or 60 retail locations where they also have users using OzLINK Mobile Pro. So it scales really easily, and I think Oz makes it very easy to scale up over the life of the relationship, and we can add licenses and, frankly, reduce the amount of licenses at any time based on the needs.
And one more question. You talked about receiving, and you had mentioned like a case or master case, something along those lines. In NetSuite, if I have multiple units of measure set up, will OzLINK support that?
Absolutely. So OzLINK will make it very easy if you have an item that has multiple units of measure set up to toggle between a each or a box or a master case quantity, and Oz will degregate the quantity that you're picking or receiving or moving based on the unit of measure that you're working with.
Great. Thanks, Pete.
No problem, no problem. All right, so let's go back and we'll just take a quick look at a couple of other features, and then we'll come back and see if there's any additional questions. So if we go back to our mobile device here, and let me just pull my mobile device up. So we've got our inventory received, and now we'd like to move the inventory into the warehouse. So we can go ahead and select that put away feature, and if we hit that search, Oz is going to give me all the items that are sitting on our receiving dock that need to be put away into the warehouse. So I can go ahead and select all of those. I can select just 2 of them, and Oz will direct me in an efficient walking path through the warehouse to put those items away in their respective bins. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the preferred bin location for each of these items and direct the user sort of in a serpentine, up one row, down the other type of walking path. And at any time, the user can go ahead and change the direction that they're walking in the warehouse. Maybe they're going or coming from that receiving dock. But as we go, we can go ahead and enter the quantity of inventory that we're putting in the bin. We can scan the bin location that we're putting it in, and then Oz will direct us to the next bin. In this case, put away item 5002 in bin C36. We go ahead and select that item, enter the quantity of inventory that we're putting away, scan the bin location, and then Oz will show us that we've put our entirety of our inventory away. We can go ahead and save that, and NetSuite inventory records will show in real time and accurate where our inventory has ended up. So just a few quick sort of inventory control type of features, and then we'll take a look at fulfillment. So item lookup and bin lookup are similar concepts. On the item side, we have the ability to search by item number or barcode. We can also do a general search and pull up all of our inventory. We can really look for specific items, certain categories of items, items that have specific keywords in their descriptions or names. But within this item lookup screen, we also have the ability to move inventory. So in this case, for item 8001, we've got bin G03. We can go ahead and select that, scan a bin that we want to move inventory into, enter a quantity. Let's say we want to move 200 of these into bin A01, and we can go ahead and save that, and Oz is going to perform a bin transfer for us, again, showing in real time, accurate inventory levels in the NetSuite system. Now, from a bin lookup perspective, we really have the ability to look at a bin from a little bit of a higher level. So maybe we want to scan a bin location. So I can go ahead and scan a bin. OzLink's going to give us, oh, I'm sorry. I think I went into my bin count feature. Give me 1 second here. So I wanted to look at bin lookup first. So I can go ahead and scan a bin location. Oz is going to give me an idea of what inventory is in that bin. So I want to know what the on-hand inventory is, what the available inventory is within each of those bins. Here's where we can generate another label. So our customers sometimes don't have barcode labels on those bins ahead of time. They may want to generate a bin label at this point. You can go ahead and generate a bin label. We can also move multiple items at a time. So if we want to go ahead and move 2 or 3 of these items, we can do that from this screen as well. Maybe we want to relocate the entire contents of a bin to another bin location. We can do that. But we can also go in from there and generate replacement item labels. So maybe we've received items. Maybe we labeled a case of one of these items at receiving. We're breaking that case open, so we want to replace those item labels. We can do that from this lookup screen as well.
Hey, Pete, a couple of questions while you're in here talking about bins and labels. Bin management feature inside of NetSuite. The question is standard bin management, bin management. What are you using here?
Yeah, so I've got advanced bin management enabled here in NetSuite. OzLINK Mobile Pro can be supported with folks that do not use bins at all, as well as folks that use advanced bin management in NetSuite. If you guys have any questions around sort of NetSuite configurations, let us know. We're happy to have a more detailed conversation about that. But to answer the question, I've got advanced bin management turned on here, but OzLINK can support customers that don't use bins as well.
And another question about bins came up, and I think it's really sort of a NetSuite question, but the question is, if I'm looking at a bin, is this showing me all of the inventory across my entire operation that's available, or the inventory just in this specific bin?
So in the bin lookup feature, we're just looking at the inventory within the bin that we're looking up.
Right, and if we do an item lookup, we're essentially looking at that location quantity that's on.
That's right.
Great.
Yep.
Thanks.
And then from this bin lookup, guys, we can go into a bin count feature. And there's a couple of versions of bin count, but I'm going to show you kind of what it does, and then we can kind of talk a little bit more about the other features as well. But from this bin lookup, I can go ahead and scan items that I'm seeing within my bin. And OzLINK will allow me to enter quantity for what I count for that item. And I can go ahead and count another item, 5003, let's say. And item 8001, let's say we see 560 of these. And I can go ahead and calculate adjustment. And OzLINK is going to give me a breakdown of what we counted physically within that bin, as well as the quantities versus the value, and the differential between what NetSuite thought was in that bin at the time when we counted it. So this will give us a real clean and easy way to do inventory counts within the warehouse as we go through the warehouse. Maybe we want to take a closer look at the bin in an ad hoc fashion. This will give you the great ability to do that. Now, we also have customers that really want to control the count feature from a more centralized perspective, and we may want to assign specific bins and specific days that we want to count inventory within the warehouse. So in order to do that, let me get back to my menu here. OzLINK Mobile Pro has given us the ability to assign specific bin counts and specific days to users within the warehouse. So if I come back into my NetSuite interface here, I can select my OzLINK Mobile Pro tab here, and I can go into my assigned bin count feature. And OzLINK is going to give me a list of my users and a list of tasks that I need to assign counts to. So if I want to set up a new task, I can select by location. I can select a specific user. I can select a specific user that I want to assign these bins to, and then I can select either a bin or a range of bins that I want them to count, and then I can select them a day. Maybe I want these bins to be counted tomorrow. So through this feature, I can really control that all of the bins within my warehouse are getting counted within a certain period of time. So that when the user logs into OzLINK Mobile Pro on the mobile device, they'll see that they'll have a number of bins that are assigned to them for counting. In this case, I've got 2. And by date in the bin, I can go in and make sure that my count jobs are up to date. All right, so let's talk quickly about sales order fulfillment. So as we mentioned in the beginning, OzLINK Mobile Pro has a few different options in ways that we can pick, pack, and ship orders out. One is, hey, we want to go out and we want to pick a single order, and we just want to pack it up and ship it out. We don't want to touch NetSuite. We don't want to create an item fulfillment directly in the NetSuite user interface. So I can go ahead and select my pick orders feature here. We've got NetSuite filters built into this so that we can see what, so we can see certain orders. Maybe we want to exclude future ship dates. We want to ignore item availability, etc. And then I can always scan and search a specific order number. But I will go in and hit that search button and pull up a master list of orders that are available in the location that I'm in that are available for fulfillment. So I can go ahead and just select one of those orders, And OzLINK will direct me again through the warehouse in that serpentine walking path to pick all the items that we need to pick. So again, we can always change the direction in which we're walking. OzLINK is going to direct us to that bin A01 to pick item 8001. Now we can go ahead and when we get there, we can select our item. This happens to the question that we had earlier. This happens to be an item that has multiple units of measure built into it. So as you can see, the sales order calls for 10 eaches, but if I go into a box unit of measure, that degrades down to 2.5 boxes. So I could potentially pick 2 boxes here out of bin A01 and move back to my eaches, and it's going to tell me that I need 2 additional eaches in order to fulfill this order. So now instead of picking 10 eaches, I've picked 2 boxes and 2 eaches based on the units of measure that I have set up in NetSuite. So then it's going to take me to item 5001 in bin A03. So I can go ahead and enter a quantity that I'm picking, scan the bin, and then finally Oz will direct me to C36 to pick item 5002. So I can go ahead and enter my quantity of 5, scan the bin location, and we'll see that all of the items that we've been sent out to pick have been picked. So OzLINK will give me the option to save the fulfillment in a picked status, in which case we can generate what's called a fulfillment ID label, which looks like this. And this will really give us the order number in a barcode, a fulfillment number or ID in a barcode, and then the customer name. And this gives us sort of a reference barcode that we can reference later on. Maybe we have a separate packing station or a shipping station set up further down my lanes in the warehouse. I can save the fulfillment as packed, and a lot of our customers will generate the packing slip, and that's the use of the native NetSuite packing slip feature. Or I can save it as shipped, and I can generate both my shipping label and packing slip if I like. I'm going to go ahead and save this fulfillment as shipped. And OzLINK is going to use the NetSuite shipping integration capabilities to print out my shipping label for this order. And this one is printing out to a laser printer. This can be configured to print off to a thermal label printer. This is getting generated to a laser printer in my warehouse. And then I can also generate the packing slip for this order, again, also using my NetSuite packing slip document.
Hey, and a question actually came in about those labels
in
different types of printers. And I think the simple answer is that things like a shipping label, an item fulfillment label, an item label itself can all be printed on a thermal printer if you want.
Right.
Things like a packing slip, those are going to print out on a laser printer.
Absolutely.
So with those thermal printers, you have some flexibility about having portable devices as well. If you want to have a printer attached to a belt, a cart, that sort of thing, those can be very portable.
Yeah, as long as those are Wi-Fi enabled thermal label printers, all of them can be configured to print directly to them.
And another question came up in regard to serialized items or lot-based items, and how is the process different if I'm picking an order where it's a lot-controlled item with an expiration date or serialized item?
Yeah, so OzLINK will utilize the NetSuite lot-controlled or serialized inventory functionality. If we're picking an order that has lot-controlled inventory or serialized inventory, OzLINK will simply prompt the user for those lot numbers and serial numbers as well as expiration dates and populate the inventory detail in the item fulfillment in NetSuite. And just quickly, because that takes us a little bit back to the item labels that we're generating, one of the key features that we're doing here, especially at receiving, is we want to make sure if it's a serialized item, for example, or a lot-controlled item, that we can populate a barcode tied to that inventory number at receiving so that we can use that function throughout the entire control process in the warehouse. So in serialized items, we'll barcode the serial number. With lot-controlled items, we will barcode the lot number as well as identify what the expiration date is. So we had talked about the idea that some of our customers, like to pick multiple orders at a time. And one of the things we feel is really useful is the use of totes when you're picking multiple orders at a time. And I'll go through the process of picking multiple tote orders. The key functionality we're offering here is we want to give you the efficiency of walking through your warehouse once and pulling all the items off the shelf that you need to fulfill multiple orders. But the challenge that you have if you do that is you often end up at the end of the warehouse having picked all those items, and you have a big pile of items that need to be sorted out. So what we're doing here is we're really giving you the ability to separate each of those items into their respective orders at the bin level while you're picking. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to pick. I'm just going to pick a few orders for picking here, and we can go ahead and process the shipment, directly using our totes. So I'll select these 2 orders, and what OzLINK is going to do is going to ask me, well, hey, we've got 2 orders that we're picking here, what 2 totes are we going to put these orders in? So we can either generate tote numbers, and OzLINK will assign new tote numbers to each of those totes, tie them to the order, and we can print tote labels for each of those totes with barcodes. And I'm actually going to go ahead and assign these orders to older totes that have already been used for the picking process, so that I don't have to scan a 12-digit number as part of the demo.
And the idea there being, you may have totes that sort of travel throughout your warehouse.
Yep.
You could scan a barcode on that tote as opposed to generating a new one.
That's exactly right.
But
yep.
If you were picking into, let's say, like a cardboard box, it's ultimately your shipping container, you could generate totes, print labels, and those could go down to your packing area, shipping area if you need it.
That's exactly right. Yep. And that tote ID travels with that order, is associated with the order until the order is completely fulfilled. So if you're picking into a box and using a tote ID, that until you go through and you actually print the shipping labels for those boxes, that tote can be referenceable against the order in NetSuite. So as you can see here, Oz is directing me through the warehouse to pick my items for each of my orders, but it's doing it at the bin level and then within a tote. So it's telling me I need to go to bin A01 first to pick 8001, and then it's telling me I need to put 10 of these into tote number 1. So I can go ahead and enter the quantity that I'm picking for my first tote. I can scan the bin that I'm pulling these items out of, and then I can scan the tote that I'm putting them in, and then Oz is going to tell me, well, we need some more. We need 10 more of that 8001, and we're also pulling those out of 8A01, and we're going to put these into tote number 2. And then it'll take us to the next bin. In this case, it's bin A03 to get item 5001. We can take our quantity of 15 out of A03, scan tote number 1 to identify the order, and so on and so forth. We may get to one of these bins, and we may not be able to actually pick the total quantity. So we can pick 5 of this item out of C36, and we can put it into tote number 1. But maybe for tote number 2, we get there, and there's not enough inventory in bin C36. We can always skip that bin location. OzLINK will direct us to the next closest bin for that item, or within our walking path if there's other items to pick that inventory. So I can then take this quantity of 5 out of bin D55 instead, and then scan tote number 2. And then as a result, you can see all of our items are picked and separated by order. And OzLINK can go ahead and generate the item fulfillment records in NetSuite. And if we want to, we can generate our various packing slips, which can be placed into the totes, and then maybe push forward to a ship station where we can generate shipping labels for them. And so it makes it very easy for us to pick multiple orders at a time, separating items at the time of picking. All right, so let's pause just for a quick second here. I'm not sure if there's any additional questions that may have come up about the picking process.
Actually, a question came up, Pete. If you could go back to the NetSuite page, just for a second, the NetSuite home page.
Yeah.
I think the dashboard sort of helps answer this. But the question was, they have seasonal help in the warehouse that they pay based on the items that are transacted, picked, received, whatever.
Yeah.
would OzLINK Mobile Pro help me track kind of how many items a user has touched with the mobile device? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, the great thing about what's happening from an OzLINK Mobile Pro perspective is all of the transactions that we're generating there are going to post in NetSuite in real time, and so we can really build great reports around the transactions, the items that are being touched. So in my bottom left-hand corner here, you can see by month, for example, or by quarter, or by week, you know, how many items have been processed by a particular user. And it's just a really clean way of seeing, well, who's the most productive guy in my warehouse, who needs a little bit of help. And again, so general transactions by user, so this can be really fine-tuned based on, you know, what information you need to run your warehouse.
Perfect. Thanks, Pete.
So I definitely want to spend as much time as necessary here to answer any other questions that we have as a group. You know, we've got, and as you guys think, and please just write in, and Troy will keep an eye on those. But you know, one of the things we always say is, you know, the amount of customers that we have out there running OzLINK, I think, is really unique, specifically to the NetSuite community and really any software community out there. And I think, you know, we've seen so many different scenarios and so many different processes. You know, I think one of the big sort of differentiators that Oz Development can offer is really the experience. You know, the challenges you're having, the processes that you want to automate. It's likely we've got a handful of other customers that have the same problems and have automated the same processes. And you know, we're really happy to put folks in touch with each other and offer case studies for different scenarios. You know, so if you've got something that you're thinking about, let's talk about it together as a group, and likely we'll be able to offer some value in that process.
Great. Hey, one process was mentioned about, or that we didn't look at, and that was related to manufacturing. And the question essentially, can I build assemblies with Mobile Pro? And the answer is simply not today. You cannot build an assembly within Mobile Pro. We're sort of evaluating that right now. We've got some debate internally going in regard to a sort of standard manufacturing versus advanced manufacturing capability. So for any of those folks that are on the phone today, if you have a need for manufacturing and you're looking to use the mobile device, you know, if you'd send us maybe an email after, give us a call, let us know advanced manufacturing versus standard manufacturing. We are actively collecting sort of requests for that and looking to make that decision of one manufacturing process versus the other. Another question came in about carrier support. We did an example where we shipped with UPS. Can I ship with other carriers as part of the fulfillment process?
Yeah, and absolutely. So the OzLINK Mobile Pro shipping label printing automation is really working in conjunction with the native NetSuite shipping integration. So if you're using, you know, native NetSuite shipping to ship with UPS or FedEx or whatever the carrier is, OzLINK can work with that in generating shipping labels during sales order picking.
Can you tell us how RMA receiving is different from receiving a PO?
Absolutely. So the key difference, if anyone's receiving returned items today, you'll know this, is really whether or not you want to restock that item. Usually there's some sort of inspection process that takes place, and OzLINK will prompt the user at that receiving screen to say, hey, what quantity of these are we receiving and stocking again, which ones are damaged and cannot be restocked in the inventory.
Great. I have one more bin-specific question about moves. Can I move an item from a bin to another bin that is in a different location? So can I cross locations with a bin move?
Yeah, absolutely. So OzLINK Mobile Pro is going to be set up and configured to work with multi-location support in NetSuite, and that'll give us the ability, you know, really to move inventory across these sub-locations on a regular basis. I mean, we have customers that have a quarantine warehouse location that they want to segregate inventory before it's inspected. We have overstock warehouse locations where folks want to store inventory in pallet quantities or overflow quantities. but don't want it available for sale until it's brought into the main warehouse. So, you know, absolutely, and you know, I think OzLINK will make that very easy to work with from a warehouse perspective.
Great. That's all I've got, Pete, for questions through the webinar. So.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining today's call. We really appreciate the participation, the questions that you have. I thought they were great questions. You know, there's a couple of ways that you can get a hold of us or get more information. Personally, my email address is peter@ozdevelopment.com. You can get a hold of Troy at tgraham, Graham, @ozdevelopment.com. And we're certainly always available and to answer any questions that you have or point you in the right direction. We also have a lot of great web-based materials and sources of information. Personally, I really think YouTube is the best one because you can really see any of the functionality that we've demoed here today is really available on our YouTube channel, along with any shipping integration that we provide and other mobile solutions that we offer as well. We also have a LinkedIn group, so reach out to us, check out our website, check out YouTube, and if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and we've been recording the webinar today, so we'll put that online as well. So if you want to refer back to it or share it with anybody, we'll send out that link once that's up. So I agree with Pete. Thanks for the time and participation. And if you have some questions, just let us know. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.